Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today is Tuesday, January 7th. The time is now 6 p.m., and the City of Williston City Council meeting has come to order. Miss Willis, would you please do roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Goodman. Council President Cox.
Hello.
Vice President Hines. Here. Councilmember Jones. Here. Councilmember Martin. Here. Councilmember Riccio is absent. City Manager Brevard.
Here.
City Attorney Ballou. Here. City Clerk is absent, and all other staff.
All righty. At this time, we're going to have the opening prayer and pledge of allegiance to the flag. Mr. Mayor Charles Goodman.
Join me if you choose. Thank you, Lord, for this ability to gather together as a city and as a family, Lord, to give each one of these council members the wisdom they need to go through all the things that have been placed before them and the ability to make the best decisions that they feel that they can. And Lord, I ask you to put your blessing of safety on each and every person that showed up here. And I ask you, Lord, to be with our police department as they're out there facing danger every day, and our fire department who risk their lives to try to help and save people. I ask all this in your name. Amen. Thank you very much.
All right. Item 1, addition, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda.
Council President,
Ms. Willis?
I would like to delete item P from the agenda, and that will be moved to our special meeting on Monday, January 14th.
That's a Monday or a Tuesday?
Tuesday. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we have...
Yes, sir.
We do have one other one that Mr. Mayor brought to my attention. A, discussion with possible action, animal neglected. We would table that to the 21st. Okay. All right, anything else? All right, so item 1. So do we get a approval with the agenda with the changes made?
I move we approve the agenda as amended.
All right. Got a motion? Got a second?
I'll second.
Second?
I second. I didn't hear it.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Noes? Nope. Aye. 4-0. All right. Item 2, Mayor Student of the Month. It's one of our favorite things to do. Mr. Mayor, the
Very polite and a hard worker, even though sometimes she struggles, don't we all? She gives her best effort. She works hard to get good grades. Congratulations. That's really something to be said from a teacher. So, Caitlin, I have say it. It's supposed to be from Shogun. It doesn't say it on here. Okay. We will correct that. Get it to you. This is from Shogun. And this is outstanding student award. My clerk is on vacation, taking classes to be a better clerk. And others have tried to step into her shoes. Needless to say, we haven't done that good a job. But this is an award for academic excellence, leadership, citizenship, and attendance at Williston Middle High School. Do you know what citizenship is? Okay, I'm not going to get you down for a moment. But citizenship is partaking in the business of the people around you. Now, in this case, it's their council, but in your class, it can be your class. It can be the people that you meet. Citizenship is an important thing to have. And she says that you are very good at it. Now, let me tell you what this is actually. This isn't just an award. This is a meal at Shogun's Japanese, Chinese, steakhouse, or whatever it is. It's right across the street. Are you familiar with that restaurant? Well, let me tell you, they have the best onion soup anywhere.
Shrimp. Yeah, right next to Domino's. Y'all know where Domino's
They all have their own opinion. I say the onion soup. So if you will hold on to this, that lady right there, the HR director, will see that you get the proper one. And she will take your name. She will take your parents' name, their address, where you were born, what time you were born, so that she'll be able to pinpoint it, okay? Okay, thank you. Stay right here for me. Were we successful with Marshall? Thank you. Could you come with me, Marshall? All right, come on. Give me your hand. You're okay.
Yeah, who is this?
You're okay.
Who is
Come
this
on,
dude?
Mama. Mama's coming with him.
Who is this dude?
Marshall. I have a really long nomination for you. It was very impressive when I read it. Miss Regina Appling, who made the following comments. Marshall is 5 years old and a kindergarten student at Joyce Bullock Elementary School in Mrs. Appling's class. Marshall is diligent, kind, and inquisitive. He always comes to school with a smile on his face, unlike where we have him right now, where he's not as comfortable as in school. Accompanied by a positive attitude and with such willingness to help others, no matter what the situation. He is well-mannered, respectful, not only to his peers, but to any and all adult figures he comes into contact with. He's driven to do his best at all tasks and sets a great example for his peers. Marshall is such a bright light and a blessing to our schools. His teachers, his classmates, and all of those around him, it is with great pleasure and honor to have Marshall Weidman in our class to be chosen as Mayor's Student of the Month. Congratulations, Marshall. Now, Marshall, you've heard all the things that I've had to deal with Caitlin, but in case you didn't, this is a certificate to certify that Marshall Weidman is awarded this certificate for academic excellence, leadership, citizenship, and attendance at Joyce Bullock Elementary School. Would you take this? And I'll sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Folks, at this time, if you would like to stay for the meeting, we would love to have you. A lot of times people leave, so it's up to you.
Run while you can. Don't give that kid a hard time.
All right.
Clear room, doesn't he?
Item 3, public participation. This is your first of 2 opportunities to address the council. At this time, anybody in the audience can come to the podium and speak for 5 minutes on any topic other than what is on the agenda. So, do we have anybody willing? Ms. Nancy, please state residency.
Right, my name is Nancy Weinecker, and I live here in Williston. First of all, I just want you to know how much we appreciate all of y'all and the city workers, fire, and police. You don't hear it enough probably, but we really do appreciate you. I'm here for several reasons. First of all, I want to remind you that the MLK Youth Pageant is Saturday night at Unity Temple of Deliverance. It is for the youth. They're going to award Miss MLK, Mr. MLK, Little Miss MLK, and Little Mr. MLK. This is not based on body shape. It's based on confidence. It's based on ability to communicate. It's free. It's Saturday night, and I would really encourage everybody to come out and support our youth. The next thing is a reminder that the MLK Scholarship Gala is a week from Saturday night. That's the 18th. That will be at 6 o'clock at the middle high school. The tickets for that are $40, and you can buy them from BJ, or there's some ladies across the hall if you'd like to do that. The third thing is the MLK Parade. Remind you of that on the 20th. It's at noon here. And then another reason I'm here is I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Just right up here as the split goes to Archer or to Gainesville. And our local church leaders are looking for service projects that we can help you with. We're neighbors. We want to help you with things. So if you have any non-monetary things that we can help with, painting fire hydrants, cleaning up yards. I know the mayor used to have a cleanup in the spring. He still does. He's a good mayor. So we're glad to help you with that if you'll let us know. And what we'll do is we're going to prioritize the things that we get, the projects that we get. And if we have a lot, then obviously we're going to be able to all of them. But we're going to look at what we can do to help. There's no charge. We will do this free because, like I say, we are your neighbors. And then we'll let you know. You can contact me. I don't want to put it on the city that you can contact them, but you can contact the city and they'll know how to get in touch with me. And we'll be glad to put it on the list. What we can do. We're all in this together and we want to help as much as we can. And then the last thing sort of goes along that. Just a reminder that there is a website called justserve.org. It is a match between nonprofit organizations who have projects that they need help with, and then anybody, it's nationwide, anybody can go on that website, just type in the zip code, see what kind of projects are available. If that's something that you can help with, then you're certainly welcome to do that. So there are lots of service opportunities. We're good neighbors. We want to be good neighbors. We love all of you, and we're glad to be able to serve with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nathan. Okay. Anybody else? Alrighty. Item 4, consent agenda. These are the council minutes from December 3rd, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I'd have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, I have first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Item 5, updates. City Manager Terry Brevard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'll be brief because I know we have a long agenda today. The one thing I will bring up is that several members of the staff today, and myself, and several members of the council went to the legislative today at the Bronson, City of Bronson. We brought up 4 items that were of specific interest to us in case there's any what we call leftover money or things that we may want to try to push through the agenda for the legislative session this year. The one thing that I spoke about specifically, obviously, was the enterprise transfer funds, the issues that are brought along with that. 3 bills that have been brought in front of the House, in order to limit those funds. The other, you should have the handout in front of you, for the fire and police department safety building, the revitalization of the abandoned Williston Hospital, the animal shelter expansion, and of course, broadband fiber. It's a preliminary thing. People come up there and kind of tell everybody what their needs are. They're 2 representatives, but it's really meant just to kind of open the door, and we expect to have further discussion with them later on, one-on-one, as we normally do. And that's really all I have.
All right. Staff?
Yes, sir. I just want to give you a quick update with the fire department. We received all of the new SCBA air packs from MSA, and they are now in service on all of our trucks. We got that. We received. I'm just going to tell you to the council that I am asking for forgiveness instead of permission. I applied for a 50-50 match grant for emergency light replacement on the fire truck, and I got it. Generally, I ask ahead of time if we can do that. So while I've got you here, I'm going to apply for another one if you'll let me. Also, today we went out to Monterey Boats and performed fire extinguisher training for their employees, to about 50 employees, and we did reading at the library to all the children. That's what your fire department's been up to this week.
Very nice. Just curious, how many calls did you have in December? Because I know the trucks kept rolling.
I don't know the exact number that I ran in December, but I can tell you that we run 2,050 for the year.
Wow. Pretty incredible. Okay. Council? No.
I know I'm still looking for the bid on the property up at the top of the hill. Still looking for a volleyball net. I know y'all are tired of hearing me about that volleyball net, but it's still not there. And there were a ton of kids in the park that were that age, that were in that area. They were just kicking the ball around because there wasn't a volleyball net. People would use it. A lot of church groups use it. I know Baptist Church has their own volleyball net, but there are a lot of others that do use it.
Does Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop?
I've been told about 3 times it was ordered, but I haven't
Really?
seen it.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes, sir. So the volleyball nets are in. We had to do a locate, so it should be installed this week.
Okay, I think there's some issue because you changed the poles and there's no attachment or something.
Correct, and it should be completed this week.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
I know the kids will too.
And what are we doing with the property at the top of the hill? Do we know?
We're working with the Florida Economic Council and the chair of that to get together a RFQ to be specific on what council's wishes are and to what type of business they would like to sell that property to develop into something that's useful for the citizens as opposed to simply putting it on sale and it turning into something that is of no use. So there's a couple ideas floating around. We know that people have indicated they have a strong desire for an IHOP, a Waffle House, a Huddle House, something of that regard that's open, that offers breakfast in town. So we're going to be looking at that and other things. But it's in the middle of being reviewed by the Florida Economic Council.
And we actually, that footprint does fit a Waffle House.
Yes, sir. There's one in Gainesville that's 0.2 or 0.02 acres smaller than the one there. And so it is a footprint that would fit for that and a few others.
Thanks, Tom.
And we actually stopped at an IHOP on the way back from someplace in Orlando that was even smaller than that. So I think we were going to put out an RFP for an all-night diner because all three of those fit it to see who might be interested. And I just still wait.
Yeah,
Will
'cause
the
I-
dumpster
Go ahead.
will the dumpster be removed soon, or is that?
Yes, ma'am. It's on the schedule to be completed this month.
Fantastic. Thank you.
The tree that's down in front of the hospital. In my humble opinion, it was standing in public right of way. And I would love if we could take care of it because it is an eyesore. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that, but it didn't fall on public right of way, but it was standing on public right of way. And anybody who drives through town just thinks we don't pick up after the storm.
We'll take a look at it.
Mr. Bishop.
We can absolutely pick the tree up if that's your wishes. It's a state tree and a state right away. I've called them twice and emailed them once.
So it's in state right of way.
Yes, ma'am. If you want us to pick it up, by all means, yes, ma'am, we can, but it's not our tree.
Are we still within the window for debris pickup?
No, sir.
Whatever y'all decide, but I'm tired of waiting. not that that matters, but tired of looking at it.
I want to take an opportunity during a non-scheduled item to thank Marion County Utilities, Gainesville Regional Utilities, and the City of Stark, their utilities. Over the holidays, over Christmas and New Year's, most of the water, sewer, and gas crews were here all day. And we've been dealing with an issue with Fugit, which we're getting work done on. But without those municipalities and county agencies, we would have been in severe problems. They loaned us, the City of Stark loaned us probably a piece of equipment that was well higher than $500,000. Did not make us sign anything. Did not make us pay anything. Just literally put it out for us to utilize. The city of, Gainesville Regional Utilities sent out crews multiple days to service us, to haul loads where we needed them to be hauled. And then Marion County Utilities, the same thing. Not only came and provided some assistance, they also gave us some ideas on how to get some of the pumps running and to do some extra work there. So I just want to thank those mutual aid agreements because without them, we would have been in a bit of trouble.
Thank you. Okay, council, anybody else? Mr. Bear. Up to you, sir. You got anything? Updates?
I have nothing.
Thank you, sir. All right, item 6, new business. Item B, discussion with possible action, Old Williston Hospital, Carolyn Borden with Guardian Angels Medical and Service Dogs.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking some time for us this evening. What I want to clarify first is that Guardian Angels is a nonprofit that's been here locally for 15 years. We're one of the largest organizations in the United States, very sophisticated to the point that Congress has appointed us 2 years in a row for a special mandate. However, we're not here to talk about Guardian Angels. I actually have a different nonprofit that is a 509A2, which is an Institute for Higher Learning. And so Ms. Jones had contacted me about the Williston Hospital, and we took a look at it, and we said, it needs a lot of work, but we thought it might be an excellent location for our institute to launch a much larger vocational technical training school. We currently have had the first and only college accredited VA approved program for the past 6 years for a different industry, something that we teach with that. So we have experience with this type of industry as well. Thus, we got our federal designation for the Institute of Higher Learning. There are many more classes we feel that we could offer to the community, and so that's what piqued our interest with the hospital. Now, we've done a little bit of due diligence. There's still a lot more to do in a feasibility study, which will actually determine a productive business plan for us if this is a good direction to go or not. However, I did have contractors come in and look at the hospital, and as I'm sure you're all aware, it's been severely vandalized over the past several years, and it is no longer up to code. So to do the repairs and bring it up to code, everything that's going to be necessary is about $9 million. Right? So that's just to clean it up and bring it to code. That isn't the money to put it into a functional business. So again, that's a piece of what we're still studying. We do have some very positive feedback. The VA is interested in probably about 9,000 square feet of the hospital. That is not confirmed. It's still under discussion. There's a lot more discussion to take place. But that is a possibility that they would join us if we take responsibility for the hospital. They would do a long-term lease and have an outpatient clinic there for veterans, which I think would be phenomenal. We personally do a lot of work with veterans currently. So I think, again, it's something that would be very positive for the community. There's some other ideas that we have had. One that I talked to Deborah about this afternoon after the legislative meeting, because there's several needs in this community, and there's only a bucket of money that the state has. It's going to go so far, right? And we all know the coastal cities definitely need a lot of help, and so a lot of that money is going to go that direction. So I'm even thinking there's ways that we can work together with perhaps the fire and police department, maybe some others, to where we aren't asking for all these different piles of money from that one bucket. And maybe if we go in with one ask, it covers a lot of things for the entire city. We might have more luck. I don't know. It's just an idea I came up with this afternoon. Obviously, it will require a whole lot more conversation with the right parties. So I'm open for questions. If anybody has questions?
I just want to say that one of the main reasons she's here tonight, other than to let you know personally, not through me, but personally, directly, what they would like to see, what they vision as a vision. But they have asked for a letter of support when they go toward their grants and their funding. They have asked, and I told them they needed to come here in order to talk with you and get that. Just a letter of support toward their grant application and their possible funding,
Yes.
appropriation.
That'll go a long way.
And they've already got some from other people. They're just asking one from us as well.
Yeah. Anytime we can show support, I'll also be asking the VA for a letter of intent. When we can send that kind of information in, when we ask for those appropriations, it goes a whole lot further in getting you on the radar and making sure that you've got a good possibility of getting some dollars that you're looking for. Now, this year, we are just looking to apply for feasibility study, the money for that, because obviously that has to come first to make sure that we can put together a logical business plan that would serve the community well and be good for everyone. And one other thing that came up this afternoon too, that I failed to mention earlier, there was a lot of talk about needing more shelters in the area. And in one of our walks through the hospital, Deborah told me that they had actually used the old hospital as a shelter for people that were without utilities and so forth. And so we could certainly work that into the program as well. I think there's a lot of potential for different things that can happen there. We just have to be able to afford it all. Any other questions? Hi.
I am very aware of Guardian Angels.
Okay.
I'm one of the people that are somewhat I would accept the idea that people are going to put some people and so that's why I'm focusing because what I got was Guardian Angels.
Yes, there is a lot of confusion.
I happen to know because I'm trying to create yourself support services.
That's why we're doing a congressional program.
And Carol happens to be the president of Guardian Angels, and I got it confused. I'm just making that comment.
And so what the VA is on board with is this higher education.
Yes. Well, they're actually, to be clear, what they're actually on board with is they would like to do a long-term lease on a portion of the building. Yes, correct.
Exactly what I was trying to say is meeting today, and we would like to see that building made into a medical building, but there's great, I don't know if everyone's aware of it, the county has one of the highest veteran rates in any place in the state. So we have a strong need for that VA thing, and we had talked, I believe we had talked earlier about trying to get this to take over the whole thing. It fell through for one reason or another. But what you're saying is VA would be interested in you were responsible for the building.
Correct. They're not interested in anything more than the shell being 100%. They're going to do their own interior finish out, and they would do a long-term lease. Now, all of this, please understand, is speculation. We haven't gotten into deep conversations with them yet, but it was confirmed to me again today that that is what their consideration is. Yes. Well, I spoke with Ollie this afternoon, and we'll be going further up the ladder and having some meetings. We have a contracting director that works for us in Pennsylvania. We're building a very large campus up there, and he's very accustomed to doing work for veteran administration buildings, veteran hospital buildings, different things. So at the point we get to that level of discussion, I'll fly him in, and we'll further see what their needs are going to be. I can't promise anything. I can only tell you what we have been told so far. Yes, we would extend. I told them we would expect a letter of intent. Well, and for multiple reasons. Again, as I mentioned before, when you have multiple letters of support from all of your city members, your city officials, and a letter of support from someone like that that is interested in doing a long-term lease. The letter of intent does not bind them legally, but it shows good faith to the people that we are asking for the funding. And so I think that will be very credible, very important to get going forward. No problem.
Ms. Ballou?
I just want to get a little bit more information. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on is the request that the city council, on behalf of the city, provide a letter of support or certain council members individually, and can you speak a little bit more about what you mean when you say a letter of support of what exactly?
the letter of support can be done either way. If you want to do a group letter or if you want to do individual letters, I'll let you all fall back in your court to decide what best suits your interests. But what we're looking for, again, would be affirmation from everyone of importance, yourself, in the community, that say, yes, we would love to see this project move forward. We think it would be beneficial for our community. And again, with that goes into the appropriations. We've already been meeting with several congressmen, senators, state representatives. Several have been out to our Guardian Angels campus. And but that's why it gets convoluted. It's why it gets confusing if it's Guardian Angels or if it's the Institute. But they're actually two completely separate entities, two completely separate. Guardian Angels is 501c3. The Institute is 509a2. So they're completely different federal designations. But yes, that would be what we would be looking for in letters of support for the project.
Something very generic.
So let's see. I think there are some fees and fines and stuff on the hospital.
I have not talked to the receiver yet. They're in Orlando. I have sent them an email asking to set up a call or a meeting. And my understanding, and of course it's all speculation at the moment, that some of those things were resolved because they did pretty much strip the hospital of anything worthy of selling. And that did pay a lot of the things that were in arrears. Don't know if it was 100%. But it will be.
From my knowledge, the things that were sold were for the taxes. So Levy County actually conducted that auction. However, the federal fines for Medicare and Medicaid fraud, those are federal fines that went to the previous owner, did not stay with the building.
Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't follow us at all. Correct, which like I said, I do have email into them with some suggested dates for a meeting, but they haven't set that up with me just yet, but that all just took place this week since we just got past the holidays, so I do expect to hear something.
I can tell you every time my police chief calls, he answers the phone.
Maybe we need to talk.
And if I want to talk to him, I go stand next to the police chief and he calls him for me. I know that's a terrible way to do it, but he's obviously got his number. They've communicated about changing the locks and allowing us in, so that we're not actually breaking in. So, he has given us permission to take people through, and he's very responsive when the police chief calls.
Good to know. I'll let you know if I can't connect with him this week.
And then one other thing, other than the letter, what are you expecting from the city?
Right now, nothing more, because, like I said, I have to do a feasibility study. I need to write a business plan and know that it is going to be advantageous to all of us. Like I said, $9 million is a big price tag just to fix the place. That is not to start a business or anything else. So we need to go through that feasibility study, which we will be asking the state for that money, not you all. And then I will keep you posted as we move along. But I expect, because of the dates that everything happens and they make decisions and awards, it'll be this year that we do our feasibility study, and it probably won't get any further than that at this point, although I can tell you behind the scenes we're already doing our own feasibility study. But they will require a consultant involved. So this year probably nothing more will happen until we get through that business portion of it. But I will keep you involved. I'm happy to come back to other city council meetings to give you updates. I can certainly let Deborah know as I have that, and maybe put me on the agenda if you wish.
Maybe I'm not hearing well.
Not the entire building. That's only the demolition. Right now, you've got black mold. You've got things that are not up to code. You've got hazmat issues. Oh, we own 68 acres just up the road. That's in the county, not the And yes, we could do that. We could, but I would love to support the city of Williston. I think it's a great location for that type of business. Our business, Guardian Angels business, is more private. It's pretty much invitation only because we deal with so many people with disabilities and don't exploit that. So with this, it's a different kind of business, completely different nonprofit, and we do think it should be more visual, more accessible, and it would clean up the problematic area of there.
And if you will, let me add that I've walked with the VA through the hospital twice. The first time it was the representatives that Ollie has already mentioned to Carol that she's going to put him in touch with. But the second time they came back, they brought their own engineer and their own architect. And that's when they took a really good look, and that's when they said, we need someone else to take over this building. We need someone else to bring this building up to code. We will take care of our section and build it out as we want it, but we need that envelope of a roof, you know, AC, heating, plumbing, electric. Right now it's not there. I don't know if last time you've been in there, but it's a hazmat. It's a hazmat.
It's illegal for me to enter, so I can tell you I haven't been there since they've been out there.
Why is it illegal?
Because it's in receivership.
I
can't just walk in there.
Yes, sir.
Nobody can.
We have permission. I wouldn't be in there either if we didn't have permission.
Well, I know you had permission for the special thing that you did, which I wish to say thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, but that doesn't mean any member of this council can walk into that building anytime they choose. Does it?
Not necessarily, but I could certainly walk through with you if you wanted me to. Because the police chief and I have permission for sure. We have emails that say we could go in there, we could change the locks, we can do whatever we need. And I can say when Ms. Borden walked through and she was interested, I've overheard, especially the second time they were there, they started talking about the things they wanted to do. And I said, man, I got to put them together with the VA. If they have the wherewithal and the funds, or can get them to fix this building, the VA would surely come and partner with them. And that is exactly, it's a perfect partnership for them, and it would be a great partnership for that location.
So, Chief Rowles, does that mean that if any of us want to go in and see that property, you will escort us in?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Ballou.
Any other
Just
questions?
briefly, I know that we were talking about fees and fines. Laura, I vaguely remember that at one point this property was going through code enforcement. I'm not sure if we have any current liens that are outstanding, still owed on the property, but I wanted to flag that since we've already been talking about it.
No, we've never filed any liens because there were so many federal and county liens that we just figured we'd be third in line and it just wouldn't be worth it. So what we typically do is we work with the chief of police to make sure that anything's boarded up or if there's any vandalism and there's no way to really get anybody here to go through code enforcement. So we're just trying to keep it as safe as possible.
I just wanted to check.
I will also say that I called the finance department here at the city and asked Selena if they had anything on record that not in the way of fines, but in the way of utility bills or anything of that nature that, you know, knowing that they closed, but they probably didn't pay that last bill or whatever. She said that there was once one, but it's since been written off. So I don't know that it would follow the building either. She gave me an amount of $12,000 utility bill that had been sent to collection that wasn't collected that had since been written off.
Ms. Meredith, do you have anything? All right. Ms. Blue, what should be our next step on this?
That, Mr. President, is completely up to you. I'm not sure what the timeline that you all need a letter of support for, if that's something that you all want to, as council, ruminate on. You've just sort of been presented with this now. I'm not sure if you need it immediately or if it can wait for a decision until the next meeting. If you're going to do it as a council, you would need a vote from you all that that's what you would want. And then I want you to be kind of specific about what you want me to put in the letter of support.
As far as timelines, I can tell you we try to stay ahead of the curve on whatever we're doing. So we just got the paperwork this morning for the 2025 allocation reports, And so we will be filling those out. We've already done the old ones, figuring they're going to be very similar. So basically our grant team, all they have to do is just transpose it to the new forms. And so we would like to be able to send everything in as soon as possible, by the end of the month at the latest, if that's possible.
Ms. Ballou, did I understand your last comment to be that you intend to write it for us if we give you information?
I would at least like to review it before it
Or write it?
signs. Or write it. I'm happy to do either, but at the very least review
I
it.
just want to make sure we don't get into legal trouble.
Me too.
So we'll do next meeting.
It's up to you.
I don't see why we have to wait.
You gotta give Ms. Ballou
I mean, we could give her instructions to do it.
Right.
Yeah, if you vote on it tonight, if you're comfortable moving forward with the letter of support, I just ask that you just sort of let me know generally what you want in there, and then I'll draft one up, and then
One thing we can look at it.
we'll have everyone sign it up once it's through. So
Okay.
you can absolutely vote on that tonight if you wish.
All right. So, do I have a motion for
Figure out how to say it. I move that we instruct the attorney to write a letter of support for, to get it right this time, Ford Institute of Higher Learning. Correct. In their efforts to, let's see, revitalize the abandoned hospital in Wilson Park.
Do you need to add to a different business? Because it won't be a hospital.
Right.
We'll let the attorney figure that piece
I
out.
started to say, if you'll give her a little, well, if you can,
I'll reach out to you to get the
either that or
specifics on.
take it from here.
I think that I did receive that letter, so I'm comfortable with that as the instruction. I feel like I'm clear.
All right, do we have a second?
I second the motion.
All right. So first, we got a second. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, likewise. No. 4-0.
Anything else for me? Thank you for your time.
All right. Item C. Discussion with possible action. Appoint board member to the Planning and Zoning Commission. City Planner Laura.
Good evening, Council. We have an opening available on Planning and Zoning, and we have 2 applications. So, according to Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances, you guys have to appoint one. We have both applications attached. I believe Mr. Stark and Ms. Collins are both here. So, Mr. Stark and Ms. Collins. So, if you would like to ask them any questions, I thought both of their applications were great, and I wouldn't have brought them to you if I didn't think both of them would make a great addition.
I have a totally oblivious question. After all the other appointments that are on our agenda tonight, are there any other openings?
No.
Do not have applicants for.
I mean, some of them are here, and we're going to appoint people that may fill all the seats.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
And-
Yes,
and
there
I'm
will
saying,
be.
if we don't appoint them to one thing, can we appoint them to something else?
Yes,
Yep,
ma'am.
there will
Yes, ma'am. There is going to be 2 openings for code enforcement. However, there was only 1 application.
Just for information, thank you.
And you only need it 1 for Planning and Zoning.
Yes, sir.
Haven't read your application. Why do you want to be on it? Freddie, we'll start with Mr. Stark. Yes, sir, please.
Quite honestly, compared to Steve, why do I want to be on planning zone?
Yeah.
Because I was asked to serve.
Okay.
And I've obviously been interested in moving forward as a city resident. I'm a long-time resident of this area. But I'm a property owner here now. I love this city. And I want to be a part of the right decision, encouraging the right kind of growth and development here in the county.
Thank you. Mr. Collins.
I'd like to move up to the planning and zoning. I've been on code enforcement for a little while now. Ready to be more and more involved and take on bigger roles. Really like Williston. I'm not from Florida originally, but I love being down here. And I've been in Williston now for 8 years, and I'm just looking to get more and more involved. Make my footprint bigger and bigger and better.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Can we take votes?
Sorry. Ms. Martin, I'm actually going to talk to our attorneys this year about getting extras. So, because I do have they are small boards, and I do often have trouble with our quorums, and it's becoming a problem for some of our boards because for planning and zoning, it's an ordinance that I've advertised and we prepared for months, and then nobody shows up. I don't have that problem lately, but so we are going to work with that, but we'll have to make some changes in our ordinances to make that happen.
If I may ask, are you suggesting we need more members on that committee?
Our planning and zoning committee is 7, and we would like to have extras. I know Marion County does that. They're called, what are they called?
Alternates.
Alternates, in case somebody can't
Levy
show.
County does too.
And the city of Williston's never done it, but I think this was very exciting for me because typically I have these openings and nobody applies. I had 5 applications this time, and other people that said they were interested, they just didn't get them in. So this was exciting. So this means that there really is some change happening in the city. And of course, planning and zoning, everybody wants to be on that board. It's fun. It's fun for me.
It's where it all starts.
So when do you want to start that process?
For the
Having an
alternates,
alternate.
Kirsten and I just have to get. I mean, I have like 13 ordinances I'm working on for 2025, so it'll be on the list.
We'll
You
get
wanna
it done
do
as soon as humanly practicable.
I can get that one done for February. It's fairly simple.
You said for February?
I could get that one on the February meeting.
Okay. So hypothetically,
Mr. Stark. Hi. How's your mother? Good. How many boards have you been on? Of the various boards that we have, I think Mrs. Collins said she was on code enforcement for a number of years.
Yeah.
How many boards have you been? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, council.
Laura, back to you real quick. If we were able to have an alternate, whomever we chose tonight, would we have to reopen the application process for that alternate position, or would we be able to say, okay, one person moves on and the other person comes back as an alternate when that ordinance is changed?
There's no rules for that, so you could definitely ask one of these applicants to be your alternate when that ordinance is changed.
Or we could ask them to make the Board of Adjustment.
Yes,
If
there are
there's a
2
second-
openings on the Board of
If there's
Adjustment.
a second opening there.
And then they can always do I have a lot of shifting, so it's not uncommon once I have a board seat open, then they just shift around if they're citizens that like to serve.
So whoever doesn't, let's see, how was that? Whoever doesn't get it, would you entertain the alternate spot or working on one of the other boards?
I think Ms. Collins is already on one of the other boards. She's already there on
Yeah.
Board of Adjustment.
She's wanting to move up. Okay. So guess those. What's the best way to do this? Just who would like?
I started to say we want them both. That's why it's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to move forward is to make a decision on which applicant that you want to appoint, and then I guess you could ask the applicant if either of them would be willing to serve on a different board. I definitely wouldn't say to make someone an alternate or try to appoint them to another board without getting their A-OK first, but
Right.
you would need to make a decision on who you want to place in that position.
And I believe Mr. Stark had indicated he'd be willing to take the other position on the other board.
So make it easy.
All right.
So are we making a motion? Are we just voting?
Yep.
I'll go ahead and go for it. I make a motion that we appoint Lena Collins, zoning planning, and Mr. Stark to either move to Board of Adjustment or to become the alternate on zoning, planning and zoning. Right?
Yeah, but that's on the board. That's a bit change the word.
Right. If when the time comes.
So we can't do two of them.
She's already on code. I mean, she's already. Yeah, but there's another seat. That's the second one.
Yeah, so I feel like we got muddy there at the end.
Yeah.
For me,
So recite just the
let's-
front half of it.
let's restate and then we can go. Let me put it like this. You can say in the event, your motion can say in the event that an alternate position is approved by the city, then we would like this individual to be in that alternate position, if they agree. If that's what, it's an if. Alternatively, just leave it for right now, with the understanding that if that becomes available, then we'll move at that time.
But they can make the motion for both positions tonight.
Yes.
Do they need to be separate motions?
They do not need to be separate motions, although it may be cleaner if they are.
And so I typically, if I remember, because sometimes I forget things, but typically I'll tell my boards when there's an opening on another board in case they'd like to switch over. So I try to keep everybody up to date on that stuff.
So I make a motion that be appointed to planning and
Second motion.
And the first with second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's 4-0.
And I move that we appoint Mr. Dick Stark to the Board of Adjustment.
Is that a motion?
I second.
All right, we have a first, we got a second. Any more discussion? No. Yeah. All in favor say for appointment for Mr. Nick. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right.
Congratulations.
Discussion with possible action. Item D, discussion with possible action. Appoint Community Development Agency Board Member.
So you guys thought that one was hard.
Uh-oh.
Now, we have two excellent applications again. Unfortunately, neither one of them are here.
Yeah.
We do have some time if you want me. That was my mistake. I didn't reach out and tell them that this was on the agenda. So, but they're both longtime residents, business owners. They're active in the community. So it's up to you if you would like me to bring them back or if you'd like to make a decision based on their application.
And these are two applicants for one spot, correct?
Yes.
But still we have an opening on Board of Adjustment or Code Enforcement.
We won't have any more openings.
Okay, so we have to choose.
If she's
between
moving,
one
we
of
have
these
one
two.
over there.
Okay. Did you just ask Mr. Stark if he wanted that position?
Yeah.
Because I have another application that really wanted that position. So that would fill up those two for now.
Okay. So we would need to choose between Mr. Bomanato
Yes.
and Mrs. Tiger.
Yes.
If because we've asked Mr. Stark has agreed to. Correct.
Can you tell me if either one, because you've obliterated their addresses, can you tell me if either one of them lives in the city limits? And I realize in the CRA,
They don't need to. Yeah.
not all of them need to, but
Well, they both circled residents.
but they can't all be out of the city limits. That's why I'm asking.
So to be on the CRA, you just need to be a business owner or a resident. But they both circled resident on their application.
Resident, business owner, property owner. That's for Miss Mary Margaret.
But do they live in the city limits? Either one of them. In the makeup of the CRA, I think there's only one person, maybe two, that can live out of the city limits. There's a specific, and I think the ordinance actually says that. Help me.
I would need to go look. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Every CRA is different.
And usually, if you don't live in the city limits, you have to be a business owner. Both of these are business owners. So
Yeah.
that's not the issue. I just wondered if either one of them are in the city. It may help me make up my mind who I want.
Yeah. I was just trying to not let everybody on the planet know. Does anybody know? I mean, we all know everybody.
I make a motion that we table this until the next meeting and we find out what the requirements are for the CRA and perhaps have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Bominata on this one.
Yeah, and she's got the full application. She'll know when she sees the address, but we haven't seen it, so we can't tell. Not that I want to tell. I just want to know if they're in the city limits or not.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, but I'd have to look it up on the. I don't want to delay the entire city council meeting.
And it's a makeup.
I second that.
And I will ask them to come the next time. Like I said, it was my fault that I didn't
Okay.
let them know they were on the agenda.
We have a first. We got a second. Any more discussion on the motion?
I didn't hear it. That's why I was asking what it was.
Right. All right. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0. All right. Resolution 2025-01. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston to establish a 5-year contract between the City of Williston and Alpine Communications, LLC, and providing an effective date. Public Works Supervisor Donald Barber.
Thank you, Council President. This contract is beneficial in keeping track of the attachments to our infrastructure and will help to maintain the inventory for any third-party pole attachments on behalf of the city. This will begin the process in establishing a program for franchise fees, safety data, and it'll be a whole batch of ordinances that will have to be created for fees to do with attachments and all that wonderful stuff. Currently, we have our permitting department, but they work through Florida Building Code, and this is more in the vein of the Public Service Commission, and it's got guidelines in accordance with that on the state level. So instead of putting forward a budget amendment, hiring staff that have a experience in this, what we did was we put out a call for contractors that did these. One of the contractors that came forward said that they actually offered that process for free at a zero cost. How they do this is they build their prices and their fees into what the city establishes. So the burden of all of that is put on the companies, the industries that want to attach to our infrastructure, that want to have, over the long run, a negative impact because of being put on the poles. And of course, we haven't done an inventory in quite some time. Speaking with Jody Finkel of FMPA's legal counsel, he indicated this is a good step in finding out, because you can go back quite a few years, pardon me, and actually collect those fees anyway. So this is also a step in getting some of those fees that we haven't captured. So then the next question may come to your mind, why didn't we put this out on an RFP? This is obviously a contract, and contracts are bid. The reason for that is because we want to do a piggyback. So JEA, Jacksonville Electric Authority, for those who aren't familiar, the city of Jacksonville is basically just the city. There's no Duval County, really. other than I think law enforcement. It's really just the city of Jacksonville. So they put out the bid through the state, and they awarded this to Alpine. Alpine is not a regional; they are an international company. And again, they had a high recommendation from FMPA, had a high recommendation from JEA. I don't know if it was attached to your full packet, but I did send the documents in for anybody to review that their contract. We made some changes to ours, and so we're asking for this to go through to begin that process. The secondary purpose is that this is a needed step in us pulling our own permits, us doing our own load calculations, us doing our engineering on the fiber system that we're going to be building. So that's another key component. It also, a third point, we have Central Florida Fiber, we have Lumen, we have Phantom, we have Open Info. We've got a lot of other players that are coming to us that are emailing Terry and saying, hey, what's your process? How do we attach? You have a statutory requirement after so long to give us that process. We can, instead of creating something out of thin air, let people who do this and are experts in this take this over. And again, at zero cost to the city, we felt that it was a really good opportunity. This contract is for 5 years, and there is a provision that we can extend that contract for 2 more 5-year periods of time if the council at that time deems it that they would like to do that. So, if you have any questions at this time.
Okay. The fee is established how?
So you guys will vote on ordinances for franchise fees, for pole attachments, just like water, just like gas. There'll be fee structures, permit structures. Obviously, those ordinances will belay that we have a third-party pole attachment permitting process. And that would be something that obviously the city attorney with staff would work out. We would bring some proposals to you. You would have reads because they would be ordinances. We would get information from FMPA. There's a point at which you can go too low, which we don't want to do. There's a point at which we can go so high that people want to sue us because they say we're obstructing. So what we would do is we would get a lot of counsel from FMPA, take their recommendations, and then obviously draft that up with the city attorney. I need to move on this as quickly as we can so that I can begin working on the ordinances in cooperation with Alpine, and we really would like to get this done in the next month, 2 months at the most.
How does this affect, if at all, Wilson Fiber and our competitiveness in the market?
Sure. So we have, since the RFQ was awarded to Performance Services, looked at everything in our first kickoff meeting and really indicated that if the financing and if this and if a whole bunch of other pieces come together, we would like to actually be installing the month of March. This right now has not absconded from that timeline. So that's why we want to get this through, get this taken care of, begin building the ordinances, get the 2 reads done. And then, again, this will come with some relief financially because there'll be an evaluation done of what attachments we're going to backdate, who we're going to charge. Yes, ma'am. So, I hope that answers your question.
No. Okay. Sorry, doesn't. I mean, it was a very good answer, but I guess my question is the fee structure that we would be charging.
So this wouldn't be to customers. This is for companies like CenturyLink.
Right.
This is communications companies. That's who that's for. So there's statutory requirements. The Public Service Commission has certain findings of really how much. There even is a piece of legislation that the staff is looking into. There was a period of time, we're not positive if it's sunsetted or not. Terry can answer more to that, about $1 per pole attachment, but we're getting different answers from someone obviously who wants to attach versus our legal counsel through FMPA. Of course, they have differing opinions on that. But the permitting is kind of exempt from that if we are in fact contracting that out. So they're going to give us a rate of what it requires for them. Again, those rates, if you want to look them up, are through Jacksonville Electric Authority, and they've passed the Public Service Commission to muster.
So in other words, the other companies would be paying the city. The city does not have to pay anything to run lines to do Wilson Fiber.
Correct. So instead of calling into the permitting department, they would be referred. They would get a packet. They would go through Alpine. Alpine would analyze their as-builts, their engineering. Walt can even answer to a little about this on that side of the house if you desire. But that process, as far as load calculations on the poles, the height of poles, the feasibility of whether or not they can put up a particular piece of equipment at a particular location. And they would do all that review for us, come back with a recommendation. Staff would obviously sign off, but they would be making that payment to Alpine, and then Alpine, whatever fees we established for ourselves, would forward that information or that money, to us.
And if I can just piggyback and clarify, I think part of your question was sort of how does this affect our competitiveness in the market? And something to be you can't put too fine of a point on is that we really are prohibited by Florida law from using these fees in order to make ourselves more or less competitive. They've got to really be tied to like actual costs, to Donald's point. So it shouldn't theoretically impact competitiveness one way or the other.
Anybody else, council, have questions? Mr. Terry?
So just to clarify a couple things real quick. So the actual fees in which Donald's talking about, so according to the state statute that I've read, did not actually sunset. It actually extended to December of like 2030. And what that does is if you're a non-served, less than served, certain megabits community, then basically any communication fiber company can come in and pay us, as an example, $1 a year pole attachment fee, for that because our community is underserved, right? But as Donald stated, on top of that $1, there are other fees that they have to pay: the engineering study, what it would cost to make that pole
Make ready.
Make ready. In other words, make ready means, just for the record, in other words, if they put that attachment on there, it will take that load, and there will be a lot of poles that, even with our stuff on, that they're going to have to say, okay, you're going to have to replace this pole, re-engineer it, restructure it, or do whatever to make sure that it can take this one extra 4 or 5 pounds or 10 pounds of force that this person wants to attach to our pole. So there's a lot of things that it covers, and as Kirsten stated, a lot of it is covered in the Florida state statute that prohibits you from doing things in a negative. In other words, we can't say, okay, the common right-of-way permit for a, digging in the right-of-way for the normal person is $10, but we're going to charge you $150. That doesn't work, right? And we've had this discussion before when we talked about other communication companies coming in, hanging stuff off our poles and stuff like that. So this is nothing new. This is just a way to solidly hammer down our processes. So when those people knock at our door, we go, here you go.
And to be clear, just for the mayors' sake, competition is good, and we think we're going to beat them no matter, what the ratio is of that. We think we have a better business model, so that's not something that within the fiber we really have a fear of. We're going to beat them on price and service.
So from my understanding or clarification, as I was reading, it was a lot of information. So when they go out and do their studies, they're going to be evaluating our poles, right?
So that's actually part of the bid that we awarded and the memorandum of understanding that we did with Performance Services that was awarded the initial basically preliminary engineering study and feasibility study. So that's actually part of that. So the engineers are already going the other. But this is a universal permitting process. Same thing as if the CRA or the animal shelter or the airport put up a shed. They'd go through the same permitting, even though they're the city, as someone in their yard putting up a shed.
Somebody from the audience had a question? Mr. Coward? You got to come up to the podium.
Mr. Barber, if I heard you correctly, so Alpine is going to get the fees are going to be paid to them, and then whatever the fee structure that the city council sets up is how the city will recoup any costs on that. So, all right. I guess my question is hearing Mr. Terry talk about utility funds and possible legislation. Would this funding revenue be an increase to possibly being part of that process that you have to be worried about safeguarding?
That's a great question. It is considered, fiber is considered an enterprise fund. The fees, if they went to electric, it's an enterprise fund. It increases that pot. We don't know if that bill would matriculate as net revenue or gross, but either way, obviously if you increase that amount, there's more that can be transferred to the police, to the fire, to other animal shelters, to planning, to zoning, to those general fund departments.
And I think one of the luxuries that we have is that as we start up a new enterprise fund, it has to pay its bills, right, as a minimum. It doesn't have to be, it has to make, 20% profit first year, 30% profit first year. So So we could actually operate a fiber company for 10 years, not make the first dime. And as long as we're backfilling, paying for our capital improvements and paying the system's paying for itself, we're providing a service to the city, which is something we should be doing.
And even that savings because you're duplicating services. A lot of the equipment and a lot of the technology that would be utilized for fiber would also save the electric department money or vice versa. So when electric goes out on a power outage and they obviously repair, fiber company comes in, obviously that's not something we have to pay like our competitors where they'd have to pay the utility provider to fix their stuff before they could send their own crews out. So there is a modicum of savings over the long run, even if, as Terry mentioned, we don't particularly get a profit on the books.
We, a lot of people think these attachment fees are like the goose that laid the golden egg, and they're not. I mean, the average price, I think, is where they would like us to stay is about $13 a year.
Between 13 and 15 is what our legal counsel's suggests.
Yeah, so we're not making a killing off these things to begin with.
But if they put it on 2,000 poles and we have multiple attachers do that, maybe it's a police car.
The problem we'll have is that seeing where we lined up statutorily with the underserved statute, which, I'm not going to make that decision, but, obviously they would be looking at just do $1 a year per pole.
And the Public Service Commission would make that decision.
Well, Florida State, I don't know, to be honest with you.
Maybe that lady too is right on a recommendation.
It's in Florida State statute. You just look at the numbers to see if you're underserved. And I'd have to look at the numbers and get back to you, but I wouldn't want to go on record this one without reviewing it.
We would certainly seek guidance from any and all regulatory agencies before we made a determination one way or the other.
Because we currently have customers that are on CalLink that certainly are not under.
Right.
All right. Anybody else questions? All right. Then I look for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-01.
I second.
All right, we got a first. We got a motion. We got a second. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? 4-0.
So if I might add, Mr. President, Donald Work came in on his day off, came in on a holiday, I might add, to prepare this and get it ready for council, and I want to personally thank you. Good job, Donald.
Thank you, sir.
So the next item.
Yes. Item F, Resolution 2025-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, establishing authorization for the City of Williston, Florida, authorized staff and Wright Pierce to request for a price and bids on a commercial or industrial vac truck through the RFP process and providing an effective date. Public Works Supervisor Donald Barber.
Before I go over this one caveat, I just want to point out that last item, I didn't ask for any money. So I just want to point that out. That's rare. So,
Yeah.
So here's the second item.
Very rare.
I can't say that about this one. Due to some of the other things and the conditions of town, I've been employed with the city over 6 years, and one of the first things I came in, I was shocked having worked for other utilities that we don't have a Vector truck. And of course, our budgets and our rates and all those things were never where they needed to be, so it wasn't really something that was feasible. But the delivery of these trucks obviously take quite a few months, years to deliver. And looking ahead at the future, and particularly right now, we have a rental on one that is very cost heavy. And if we didn't have that truck to be rented, and that's, by the way, total credit goes to Latricia, who fought with FMIT to get the insurance, and Megan from Accounts Payable, because they stayed after hours. They called on the phone. They called from home. FMIT did not want to insure something over the sovereign immunity number of 250, and as I've mentioned, these trucks are valued at $750,000, $500,000. So while we had Stark's truck, unfortunately some of you I know are busy and you work, but I was able to get with a few of you individually, with no one else present, for the record, and demonstrate this vehicle with the crew to you all. And I want to just say that in the time that y'all were there that day and part of the next morning, there were 6 major leaks that were repaired in the city of Williston. To give you a perspective, that would typically take about 2 weeks Because the difference here is with a piece of equipment like a backhoe or a mini, you're doing your locates, you're cutting a very large area around the leak because, believe it or not, water does not come up right away. It finds the path of least resistance. We've gone into times where we've had to cut up, quarter of a mile of an easement before we found the leak. I'm not exaggerating. Especially with all the lime rock here in town. So what I will say is we were able to do something that would take us multiple weeks in a very short time of a day and a quarter. This truck is not just for something that we could use for fiber. It's not just something that the electric could use. It's something that the gas could use, that the roads department could use, that the water could use. Obviously, what we're using it for right now is the sewer collections and both sewer treatment. So we don't know what this is going to cost, and that's why we're here tonight. We're asking permission through Wright Pierce, who handles a lot of our RFP processes, to go out and find out that information. Because even if we don't act on it now, we want a general idea down the road as we commit to budgets. What is that capital investment that we need? Similar to what we did a few years ago with the line truck, or the squirt truck, I apologize. And by the way, that was done 2 budgets ago, and we still don't have it. By that time, obviously, I've talked to Terry, we would get involved with Stephen, I believe with the rate structure and the rate stability fund in electric that we're going to be making some changes to for capital needs, and the one that's being written up for gas that you guys will see your next meeting, and some of the other funds. The whole point of this is that it comes out of these funds so it goes back and serves the citizens directly. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to, some of you saw how the machine works and understand its value. Understand that we once quoted you, if American Pipe and Tank did the same thing, it would have been $17,000 in one day. And those municipalities came in and offered those services on mutual aid. And the truck that we have for 30 days, I believe, is right around $14,000. So, and Terry can talk to that here in a moment. But that's what we're requesting. It's exploratory. Yes, I recognize that it costs some money. Our engineers need to make sure everything's done above board. Before we put out the RFP, I want to stipulate, Walt and I have already had a conversation about this. If you recall the bypass pumps for Fugit, we didn't go with any of the bids on the RFP. We piggybacked off the Sheriff's Association. So Walt's already said, before we spend this money, before we put out an RFP, we would go and look at the piggyback agreements, and if that were to come and we'd have a budget there, we would just instead not do this, and we would propose to you one of the piggyback contracts. So it's not like we're not trying to save that money. So, and that was Wright Pierce's idea. So, any questions that you have? I mean, it's an amazing piece of equipment, and it's universal.
I will say it was an amazing piece of equipment, and our staff was amazing. I asked them, how did you learn to use this? Did you learn to use it in another city before you came here? No, they had a very brief tutorial from the person who brought it here, and they were amazing, all of them. The ones that were running the machine, the ones that were in the hole, the ones that were cutting the hole, and the ones that were cutting the understructure, so they wouldn't have to make the larger hole, the hole larger. They just made the underneath larger so that the man could get in it. It was amazing to watch, because I know normally you're there with a shovel and a backhoe and a pickaxe, hoping you don't hit something else.
And it is near impossible with this vacuum too, and the water pressure. It's almost near impossible. The fiber and conduit's not a danger. Gas issues. And let me mention gas too. When we have a gas leak on a main, we can't use a piece of equipment because we'd blow ourselves up. So it is very tenuous hand digging to get down to that main to make that repair. And the biggest thing there is we've got one of our or two of our employees standing there, and their only job is to have a fire extinguisher. And we typically put the chief and the department on notice that we're doing this, because if they hit a piece of flint, they could blow up anyways with the shovel. So this eliminates some of that risk from some of the operations that we do.
Well, that was the first thing I said, is that thing got a cutting head on it? No, it was water. Mm-hmm. The chisel, essentially, was water. That high-pressure water. It was amazing to watch what they did with it.
High-power pressure washer.
And for those that are curious, like, do cities our size have these? Yes, Stark is very similar in meter count for our services. They're very similar in budget. I'd say actually we have a larger budget. Brooksville, Spring Hill, Lake City, Newberry. I mean, there's a lot of towns that have this piece of equipment. It's not just the big ones, GRU, the city of Ocala, Marion County. It is something that they consider essential.
So a couple questions, and of course, Donald and I've already talked about this, and I know there's probably different levels and stuff. Like this one has its own water built in. It makes only sense that you have it like that. So, and the ones that we saw, the ones we're renting. I mean, is that top bells and whistles? Is that the Mac Daddy or
no, sir?
Okay,
so that's kind of a mid-range. It does have a secondary axle, and it has a little bit of a larger holding tank, but it doesn't have a jet machine on it. If you noticed, that a lot of times they're redundant with that. That's to actually clean out the lines. We would actually want that as a component because we already have a jet machine, and if it went down, we'd obviously, for a very small amount, would want to have a secondary. But yes, so that one's probably price range right around $500,000 to $550,000 if you were to price that out. I mean a new one, not the current year that it is. We would be obviously looking at pull behinds as an option that attaches to a large truck. We would look at smaller trucks that are single axle. The biggest issue is what is the holding tank for the solids and the waste, and what is the water tank? So if you're on a job fixing a water leak, obviously in the middle of it, you don't want to run out of water. So those are the two key essential components, obviously with the ability to jet. So those are the three components we would look at, and I think we would look at a plethora of options, and we would really, if we did an RFP or looked at the piggybacks, we would just go out and see what all different types of things. There's VectorCon that has offered in Green Cove Springs to take individual council members to do a demonstration at their factory. There is the one in Lakeland where we rented this one, has offered to let some of you go down and look at the factory. And there's a few other companies in the state of Florida that offer these trucks.
So the lead time on this, I know like we're always talking about lead time on getting stuff like that. So, I mean, do we have any idea what the lead time
Not
is
6
on
months, I can tell you that. Now, I can't tell you it'll be 2 years.
Right.
You never know. I mean, they may say, hey, we're excited and we're going to move you up because the city or somebody canceled it. It had similar, so I can't guarantee that. But obviously, that would be a contract that the council would look at and obviously would be into agreement of terms that you all. And our goal here is that the rate stabilization funds for the highs and lows of energy, once we build that up to a certain rate in these enterprise funds, that we would only take the excess. We could always still give back a rebate to the residents if something catastrophic economically happened, but everything above that certain magic number of 90 days or 120 days of revenue, that money would be used. So it's already built into the rate structure. We're not asking to go out for a loan. We're not asking to borrow money of income.
So I know that this, even though Walt, we're going up to $10,000 here, and I know that basically, it's could be like the electrical trucks where it could be a 4-year wait. I don't think it is. For some reason, I think it's probably a little quicker. And I don't have a problem spending the money. That's why we came to y'all to look at the idea of maybe doing this. I think one of the things that I bounced around because I'm just kind of hesitant about placing an order for something, and this is obviously not for this meeting, but just keep in mind, and I'm going to use the term as like a parachute clause. I don't know how you use it any other way, Walt, but basically if we go out for an RFP and they come in, I mean, is there any point in the contract that we issue a PO, that we could say, okay, look, this thing is 18 months out, and the next thing they do, they call up and go, okay, your truck's going to be ready in 3 weeks.
So like the squirt truck, obviously based on a contract. And like the squirt truck, if they would have delivered it ahead of time, we could cancel that order. There was no money transferred. It's not until delivery of that vehicle, and these are the same. If we don't take possession of the vehicle, from my knowledge, we did not put deposits down on the Thompson pump we have. We didn't put deposits down on squirt truck. We haven't put deposits down on anything because this is such a specialized industry. They have orders behind that, and they have a sales department. If they have an extra truck, they turn it into a demo. They go out, they sell it. We would obviously check into that, and that's a good concern that I concur with.
That was really the only thing that I would recommend. Walt's kind of looking at me, but that's the only thing that I would recommend if that is possible. That if we do launch an RFQ for that we kind of structure that in there somehow. I don't know how you word it, how you wordsmith it, but it would sure make me more comfortable if it comes back that way. And I know we talked about the rate stabilization fund, and I know there's some restrictions placed on it now, right? That I know are coming back, and we place those restrictions on those on purpose. But it may be something we'll bring back to you to mend that a little bit to give us a little more breathing room when we need things like this. And I don't know what the amount that's in the rate stabilization fund at this point,
The last figure I got was around, I think, $700,000 or $800,000.
but I let Steven maybe give us that number. I know, thank you, Donald, for it. He's normally pretty correct. But I think the goal was 1 million.
1.5, we would
Okay.
never take out less than 1.5. Because 1.5, I think, is about 120 days of basically forgiving everyone's power bill in an economic crisis.
So there are some caveats placed on that rate stabilization fund that we have to take a look at to make sure that we're going to be comfortable with if we choose to use some of that money in order to buy pieces of equipment like this we need. And it would help completely across the board on every department that we have, without a doubt. And Donald actually is an expert at running them. And so even though the lady, they did give him good training and stuff, Donald was there to actually show him how to do it. It is a fabulous piece of machinery. But
For the record, I won't say I'm an expert. I do know how to use it.
yeah. So the only caveat would be see if we can figure out an out clause that's suitable for this RFQ. Man, I know we can write it and not do anything with it, but I would love to see it written, see if somebody would jump on that and give us an opportunity to maybe get in line with the ability to get out of line if we need it. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you word that.
I agree with that.
Walt can figure it out.
But the part that impressed me with the truck was the amount of time it took. Because I think when I was there, it was maybe 30, maybe 40 minutes.
From break of ground to repair.
Correct.
And that particular job on Northwest First Ave, behind the Wawa property on the north side of First Ave, as you know, we dug quite a big hole with the Vector. It was in grass, so that was really nice.
Right.
But that would have probably taken us about 2-3 hours to find, to abscond the soil around it, and then obviously make the repair. But it's a very small footprint. I believe the one Miss Jones and Miss Martin were able to see. Typically, that would have been a probably 20 foot by 7 to 10 foot wide, and the hole was maybe 36 inches by 36 inches. So there's also savings in the road department, obviously, because of the materials needed to repair.
So labor savings, the amount of sand that you would have to put in there would be less. Same thing with the lime rock. So there's all kinds of things. But I agree with Terry. We can get it where we have an out. So, but other than that, it's good. And the guys actually looked like they were having fun.
And they look like they
Well,
knew
I mean,
what
it's
they were doing.
kind of like asking someone if they want to go to a water park or if they want to work on the water park. So.
Right.
So at this point in time, what we would be approving tonight, so I'm clear, is just simply further research, the RFP will fund $10,000. So we're not necessarily approving the truck.
I'm hoping they could find a piggyback.
We
I
are
actually
too.
thought about that myself because we had the piggyback on the other one, and that popped in my brain. Why can't we not find a piggyback to that one and save that money? And so Walt may only need $3,000 or $4,000, rather than the whole 10,000.
And I just want to clarify that it's a little bit more than additional research. It's the preparation of the RFP, going out and looking for the prices.
That's about a 30 to 45 day process.
So we have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2025 national.
All right. Do I have a second? All right. Everybody come into your microphones.
Second.
All right. That was Miss Jones. All right. Got a first, got a second. Any other discussion? No. Seeing none, move to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nope. 4-0.
Thank you, Council.
All right, resolution 2025-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the surplus and sale of vehicle number 3, year 2000 Chevy pickup, and providing an effective date. Utility Director Jonathan Bishop.
Sorry about that. Yes, so we have 2 extra of the old white Chevrolets that we had from years gone by. We're just asking if Annie can put them in auction as surplus. They've met the end of our life. End of life for us.
Okay, council. Anybody got any issues?
Have they both been at the airport? Did I read that wrong?
I'm sorry?
Are they at the airport?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought I read that. So I was just really confused because you were asking for it, but it showed to me it was at the airport. So what bit do you give them back?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Okay.
kind of a deal that we've been working on.
Okay.
They gave us one of their older trucks that they were going to surplus, and we've been using it as a service truck. So we said we have these 2 white trucks that we have been using as service trucks. Since you gave us one, we'll give you these 2 so you can at least produce something.
Perfect. That was the only question I had.
Yes, right. Okay, council, any other questions? Nope. If not, I'll take a motion for resolution 2025-03.
I move resolution 2025-03 be approved.
All right. Got a first, got a second. Motion second. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0. Item H.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item H, 2025-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, appointing Ms. Jennifer Benjamin to the Board of Adjustment and Code Enforcement for a 3-year term beginning January 7th, 2025 and ending January 7th, 2028, and providing an effective date. Ms. Laura Jones.
Thank you, Council. This is, we only got one application for code enforcement, and Miss Jennifer Benjamin put that in for us. And like I said, I forgot to call her and tell her that she could come tonight, but this should be a pretty easy decision for y'all.
All right, Council.
Move resolution 2025-04 be approved.
I second.
All right. Okay, second was by Ms. Meredith. All right.
I second.
All right. We got a motion, got a second. Any other discussion? No? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. After the first. Let's get through these clock. All right, we have an open public hearing on item I, resolution 2025-05. Ms. Blue.
Right, Mr. President, this is Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, extending ordinance number 703, approved December 6, 2022, to amend the official zoning map and future land use map of the City of Williston, Florida, pursuant to an application by Covington FPC, LLC, for 47.9 acres, identified as numerous parcels on the official records of the Levy County Property Appraiser, and changing the zoning designation from commercial to planned development, PD, providing severability, providing for incorporation on city maps for 2 years, ending January 6, 2027, and providing an effective date.
There's a mistake in that. That should have been R1 instead of commercial.
Amend that to say R1 instead of commercial.
The zoning designation should be R1.
The original zoning designation was R1.
Okay, so this is a quasi-judicial because, and I'll explain that a little bit because it is a little wonky. Essentially what you have in front of you is there was an ordinance that you all passed regarding this specific property and the zoning, etc. for PD. There's an extension request in front of you under your code. The extension request is allowed to be submitted to you all. You all may extend this request because we're dealing with what was previously an ordinance on your zoning. We're extending it. We're going to do it under quasi-judicial procedures just to err on the side of extreme caution, provide everyone the ability to be heard in the event that they would like to. So the first question that I will ask of all the members of the council is whether or not you've had any ex parte communications regarding this property. Just as a reminder, an ex parte communication is any discussion or exchange of information that you've had regarding this item outside of public hearing. No. All right, I see 4 no's. The next item will be for, other than the materials that are presented in the packet, if there are any other materials or documents that anyone wishes to be made part of the official record of this hearing, please provide them to the clerk at this time. All right. Anyone who wishes to speak on this matter, even if you are not sure that you'd like to speak, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Okay, and I'll have you state your full names. Rachel Mandow. John Curtis for Covington. Thank you. All right, at this time it would be appropriate for city staff to give their presentation.
Thank you. So the city of Williston received this petition for zoning and land use classification back in December 2022. If you remember, it was called Berkeley Oaks, and it was a great presentation given to us by the consultant JB Pro. I have attached that original presentation if you guys needed to look back and remind yourselves. We did get a request for extension. The request letter explains why the extension was needed. And they're kind of just typical development issues that come up when you're trying to sell and develop a property of this size and do the right thing. So I had no problem with doing it. I did have to come to you and ask you if we could extend the planned development zoning. So just as a reminder, a planned development usually has more than one type of zoning. So if we're talking about residential, we typically would have single family homes and duplexes. We would have single family homes and townhomes. We could have some commercial mixed in there, a lot of open space requirements. And if you look, as far as I understand, there's not really been any changes to the overall design that may come. There may just be some changes with some entrances when this is all said and done. But this is nothing to really change. We just haven't had been able to get started on the project yet. I don't know if you want us to, if you want Miss Willis to scroll down and show everybody, everybody's visual. So this property is over by the school and across from the airport. And if you go to page, sorry, I'm trying to find you some nice maps. So if you go to page 74, you'll see the master plan, which includes different types of residential.
What number is it in our packet?
It says page 74. See, right there.
I was already at the end of the JD Pro presentation.
It was an excellent
Which was
presentation, I'll tell you.
123.
If you want, I can go through the whole presentation for you guys. I have it memorized because it went through planning and then you guys twice, so. Do you have any questions?
I do, but I don't know if this is the appropriate place for them.
You can ask questions of the planner now, and then we'll move on to applicant rebuttal. If you have specifically questions, if it's discussion amongst you all,
Is
then
it about the plan or other questions?
Questions regarding her presentation.
Okay. And the JB Pro presentation. That's still appropriate? it talks about the FAA submittal of 2022. Has there been an answer to that? And if so, what is it? Because we haven't seen it.
So that original property prospector pulled out. So that was never finalized, but they're still working with JB Pro. The property owner's still working with JB Pro, and they know once this starts to go that they're going to have to do some work with the FAA.
But it was submitted to FAA.
It was.
Did we not get a response from FAA?
We needed to do a noise survey. Yeah. Which nobody's wanted to do yet because they haven't gotten that far.
The company needed to do a noise survey.
Whoever the prospect is, probably, unless there's an agreement with the property owner. Somebody's going to have to do a noise survey.
All right. Okay. I guess.
But no, it has not been done because nobody's gotten to that point yet.
Well, I still have issues with that, so I guess we could still do it during the extension.
There's a lot of things that are going to happen before they break ground, so that you still are going to see some other approvals. This is simply zoning.
All right. My other question is: are the taxes up to date on the property?
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
Okay, so
I guess I'll ask him when he gets up there.
Exactly. Okay, does that finish your presentation, Laura?
Yeah, just, this is simply zoning and like a master plan. So before anything happens, y'all are going to see a lot more things, including your FAA and probably some DOT.
All right, Mr. President, now would be time for applicant presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So my name is John Curtis. I'm the property owner. And right now the goal is to find the right builder and developer to provide this community with the right house. We've had multiple people talk to us, national builders, regional builders. And the problem is that they're not going to, they all want to, of course, maximize the return. And that puts the housing market out of the market. So I'm working with another company that is just getting into development. They are a national company, but their goal is to provide housing. The workforce is in housing. Teachers, firefighters, policemen, government employees, people who make this country go around. So the goal is we're working to come up with a plan, working with staff to create PD as close to what you see now, but to create it so that it's actually cost effective. And a lot of people think of affordable being a bad term, but in this world we live in, that's the term that we can around. So that's my goal, because as I said, I want to make sure I've got a best interest in the community. I want to see something that's going to make sense. As to your question about tax, right now we are current as status of what's required by the tax. So it's that we do owe taxes, but we are current in the sense that, and then it's closing with the landlord, the new box. They will all taxes.
Okay. There's a lot of land. That's why
it is. It absolutely is. And when we actually broke it back into individual lots, which really created a dynamic change, because it went from a $3,000 bill to $20,000 for a quarterly or per year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? No. Thank you.
All right, now, Mr. President, would be the time for any public comment on the presentations given.
Anybody from the public have any questions?
Okay. Is there any rebuttal from staff?
No, ma'am.
Any rebuttal from the applicant?
I want to say about today that the way it's structured is that upon us getting a site plan submitted to the city for approval, that's when we have to make the application to the FAA, because they want to see the final site plan construction. And so also there's a caveat in there that if the developer builder provides notice to whoever the buyers are that this land falls within this zone of noise, that they are put on notice, just like you do an HOA or something like that. So, but the goal is to do the study, but we can't do that until we do one of the construction records.
And I remember at the time, just for as a comment, at the time I was fine with them doing a like not necessarily a deed restriction, but a notice on the deed that it was in an airport like that.
And that's actually required by the FAA.
Yeah.
So that's what we would comply with.
I was fine with that. As long as they do before they bought the land.
That is correct.
All right. Is there any closing statement from staff?
No, just the staff has looked at this, and we're still working with the same owner and the same consultant, so there wasn't enough to change to make this a big deal for staff.
Any closing from the applicant? All right. Now would be the time for deliberation.
All right, council, what you think? What's your thoughts? Got any questions?
I have thoughts.
Oh, I just want to make it clear, though, if we don't extend the PD, it's just going to go back to R1. It's still residential. So, yeah. I didn't want you to think it went back to commercial because of that typo I had in the resolution.
Also, you go back to the original plat drawing, because right now this is the concept plan that we've been working with. Sorry. All right. So this is what was platted in 1950, and that is the plat supported. So don't do a PD. This is what we intended. And we don't want to build that because this is not neighboring value. So that's why we did PD. That's why we're trying to extend the PD. We want to do the right thing.
I very much appreciate that last comment. One of my concerns is that I have yet to speak to anybody in this town. We all know everybody wants more affordable and more accessible housing, but the traffic from this is going to funnel right through Main Street, and it's already a problem, already a safety issue, and I've talked to business owners who feel like the amount of traffic has actually become a detriment to the businesses in downtown because it's doing all this work to create a walkable community. People cannot cross the street because of the amount of traffic, and not just traffic, but dangerous traffic. I watched a luckily rather agile 20-something young man try and cross when he had the little white guy that told him he could cross and almost got hit by a dump truck, and another car that was coming across from lanes, and then another car the other way the other day. And I just think that we need to be careful. I know that this maybe is a little out of bounds for this current conversation, but I think we need to be careful about the number of houses and the amount of traffic that we bring through this town without having a plan to make it safe community for people to walk, access businesses, and to use downtown. And that's my only concern. Not at all with the design, which I thought was lovely, but with just the number of units at a time without a plan for how we're going to keep downtown safe.
You know, one of the things, Mr. Stiegel, Mark talked about it earlier at the meeting this afternoon. You have areas all around the golf course that are just growing leaps and bounds. And that's where I think a lot of our traffic. You were talking about Montbrook when you first moved there and where it is today.
Yes, sir. I was talking about the amount of traffic on 41, and I was referencing that. My exact statement was when I first moved there, you could go out in the middle of the highway and lay down and go to sleep at night and not be worried about getting run over. Today, you can't go out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a very busy highway. If you'll note, when you come into the community, Jonathan actually has the vehicle counts and how much they've increased. But an example would be 121 and 41 currently. If you go there to the red light, 121 in the morning coming into town, traffic will be backed up all the way to the top of the hill out there where Wes Smith's house is at. That's a regular occurrence. You can come here to our own intersections. The Chief Rolls will vouch for this. It's pretty common to see traffic backed up to the Methodist Church trying to turn to go north on 121. Traffic counts are way up. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but they're very busy.
So unfortunately, when we work with the DOT, which JB Pro is working with the DOT with me on some other things, and we do have the Safe Streets for All grant, and we are working on that program with Wright Pierce. this is not something that the planners haven't known about the city of Williston, and I know Deborah Jones has talked about this 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. The DOT will not make changes until the problems happen. It's sort of like the schools. They don't build a new school until the kids are hanging out the windows of the other school because they're overfilled. And it's an unfortunate part of planning because I can't fix the traffic with the DOT until the traffic is an issue. And it's not an issue for them until there's certain parameters that are met. So we are trying with the Safe Streets for All, and that will assess our entire city limits, so it's not just for downtown. But that's the best we can do right now is promise you we know there's a problem, but it's hard to get those other stakeholders sometimes to meet their parameters to make the changes.
Yeah, because Morrison's one of those areas that's really growing. Because I talk to my customers when they say, "Oh, you moved down here. Where'd you move to?" Morrison. Or out by the golf course.
I agree. I feel that as a city, we have an obligation to make sure that we balance, homes in keeping with the style of Williston and hopefully with the landscaping and attention to a rural feel with the downtown and not letting our downtown just become a thoroughfare where people just drive through and nobody wants to get out of their car because this is the hub right here. And again, I'll end there. I'll get off my little soapbox about it because that's not the issue that we need to vote on. But I just think it's important that whether we need to add an ordinance, it gives us a little bit more room going forward to be able to tap the brakes a little bit on some of the development and make sure that we have a plan going forward. That's my concern about 248 homes coming in all at once. But I love the plan.
Anything else? So we vote.
Okay, I will take the recommendation of our planning staff and move approval of resolution 2025-05.
All right, do you have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We got a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None? Okay. Motion passes. All right, this is a closed public hearing. And we're going to take a... All right, so the time is now 7:58. We will take a 10-minute break. There are some goodies over in the... All right.
2 words.